Hi, I'm Elaine. This is Elaine is XYZ, a vlog that you probably haven't seen for a while. I hope you don't mind while I'm getting dolled up. It's kind of a crappy day to go outside, but nevertheless, I'm doing it, and I'm doing it to go and impress people, so... This is literally the extent of my makeup skills. Put on eyeliner, and then... So yes, like most people in the world, I haven't moved from my location in the last month or so. I'm still in Shanghai. And like most people, that's a really big change from where I expected to be right now in 2020. I'm not complaining. In fact, Shanghai is probably one of the safest places in the world to be at this point in time, and I'm really thankful that I'm here. I just can't leave because then I wouldn't be able to get back in. And the only place I would probably be able to leave for at this point in time is the United States, which is still like racking up thousands of deaths a day. Lipstick. Meanwhile, Shanghai is basically open now. The bars are open, brunches are open, Shanghai Disneyland is open. And so that leaves me with a bit of a conundrum. I could continue my original plan of not working for at least another 6 months or so, or I actually find something to do with this indefinite period that I'm going to be here. So yeah, I guess I'm out looking for a job again. Anyways, around this time last year was actually when I left my job, and so I thought it would kind of be a shame to, you know, let this month pass by and not do videos just because I don't really know what this channel is going to be about anymore. And I thought it would be really good to reflect on kind of what I thought was the top lesson of this last year. Like, there were probably a lot of takeaways, but what was the one that I feel like could be really useful to anybody who actually watches this? Ooh, gotta get a taxi. Masked up, ready to go out. So, as an example of how much better it's gotten in Shanghai, these propaganda banners used to be all about, you know, social distancing and washing hands and not going out too much. And now they're back to being about recycling and don't do drugs. This is Shanghai nowadays, with cafes so crowded it was too hard to find one that was quiet enough for me to vlog from. Like, this is what I could record of my key takeaway from this year. You know the secret behind people who have taken the leap, who have gone all in, who have decided to sink or swim? They built up to it. So never mind that idea. But anyways, yes, people don't actually sink or swim. They build up to it. So in case you didn't notice, I have been traveling mostly alone this entire year. I've met up with friends, I've met up with family, but for long stretches to more off-the-beaten-track places, I've been a solo female traveler. And it's gotten to be such a regular feeling for me to be a solo female traveler that I keep on forgetting that it's actually its own skill set. And then I'll talk to someone about it and they'll be like, well, I could never be that brave. And I'll go, really? It doesn't feel that brave, it just feels normal. But actually, it only feels normal because I've done it now. In truth, even as early as the beginning of last year, I was hesitating about going to Africa alone. I'd never booked a solo trip before to a completely foreign place I'd never been to and had no friends in. But I realized at some point, if I was waiting around for people to bring me to Africa, well, I'd probably never go. And then I would have missed out on this kind of amazing, eye-opening experience that gave me so many stories to tell, to change the narrative on a continent that people tend to hold all these negative connotations about, connotations that are very super unfair. But thankfully, I realized going solo to a completely foreign place I'd never been to and had no friends in was the next step just outside my comfort zone. It was me leveling up one level, something I had been building up to. By the way, I realized compiling this that I have so much Africa footage and I only ever made one actual video about being there. Shame on me. Alright, going off to my next destination now after the last job interview, and I'm doing some wine. Oh, holy crap, it is stupid hot outside. My hair is a frizzy mess and my makeup is like literally melting off my face. Oh god, Shanghai in the summer is brutal. And looking back and remembering that feeling, I've also felt it for like getting comfortable talking to strangers or taking on work projects that were outside of my original scope, or hell, going on YouTube. Turns out I'd been following a structure for expanding my horizons all along. And it looks nothing as brave as what lifestyle gurus seem to want to espouse. Because this whole idea of sink or swim, I feel like is a mythology that actually keeps people from reaching out and expanding their potential. I mean, it makes for a really dramatic story maybe, but it puts the onus on something intangible. It makes it seem like a personal failure if you, coward, were unable to take on this monumental task from day one. When I'm pretty sure if somebody was actually sinking or swimming, they kind of knew how to swim to begin with. It's fine and smart to prepare yourself. It's good to learn, say, breathing techniques. It's good to develop relevant stats like limb strength. It's good to spend some time in the shallow end getting used to the water. I'm really beating this analogy to death, aren't I? And yes, it probably sounds really obvious now that I'm saying it out loud, but it's also not the message that you're really given. Expanding your comfort zone, whether it's for being a woman traveling alone or anything else out there really, is a matter of introducing yourself step by step to what you need to do to make it happen. I love templates and roadmaps and spelling things out really clearly, so here's the 4 steps I would take to getting to look brave-ish at anything you really want to do. Dinner is served. One wine turned into 3 bottles, so here I am the next morning, a little bit hungover. So step 1 is making sure that this comfort zone that you're striving to enlarge in is actually something you care about. I've come across a surprising amount of women who go, wow, I really wish I could travel the world alone. But then if you press them a little bit on it, they're like, well, actually, I'm not really that big a fan of traveling. No freaking worries if trekking across the globe is not your idea of a good time. Don't feel like you have to do something just because it makes for really good pictures on Instagram. To be honest, if the wish doesn't feel incredibly desperate within you, then you probably have other priorities, and that's 100% okay. For instance, I will never be in a band. High school me loved music a lot, had friends in bands, admired them greatly, even learned how to play an instrument or two before. But turns out high school me didn't actually find joy from the act of playing music. I realized that I had this dreamy snapshot of me on a stage with a bunch of other people, and that was actually what I wanted more than the music itself. And so 20 some years on, I have never been in a band. That's okay, that wasn't my horizon to expand. Number 2 is really taking stock to know what you're comfortable in right now and what kind of scares you, and then finding the 3 or 4 steps between confidence and fear. So I didn't actually start traveling without family until I was in college, and while in college, I don't think I did very much alone. So for somewhat socially anxious and nervous me to get to the point where I would be okay on my own in a strange city, there were several points. The first step then was to spend time alone in a public setting. So for instance, eating alone. I started going to restaurants and cafes that I had wanted to try out with a book. Then the next step was checking out something in the city, like a concert alone. Then it became when I was traveling from one city where I resided in to another place to meet friends, I would find a stopover and make a day trip out of it where I would wander around that city alone. So for instance, one year I rode the megabus from New York to Detroit and decided instead of making it like a 13-hour journey, I'd make it a 3-hour and then a 10-hour journey. So I stopped in Pittsburgh, a city that I had never been to, for about 6 hours to wander around by myself. And then the next step from there was to go meet friends in a city, but to not have them and staying with them be the focus. And suddenly I was a person that was totally okay traveling alone. 3, figure out what skills you might need to improve to level up your confidence and get to the next step. Moving away from solo travel for a moment and talking more about this year-long experiment on YouTube for me, the most editing that I had ever done before this was like photo collages to music. And my goal this year really wasn't to become Scorsese or anything, but I did want to try to make videos that would not be terrible to watch. But because I didn't really know much about the process to begin with, I made the conscious decision to start with just the equipment that I had. And as I made video after video, I started to target points that I felt like weren't quite getting to the quality that I was hoping for, as low as it is. But yeah, if I had started YouTube and expected to learn a complicated software immediately and how to use complicated equipment, which this isn't, who knows what would have happened? Maybe my anniversary for this channel would be sometime in September. 4. Once you actually do feel comfortable, it's time to go on to the next step. This whole thing is about leveling up, a journey to pursue what you want for yourself. And at least for me, it wouldn't be really fun if you just stayed at your established baseline forevermore. So if you've already created this new comfortable circle for yourself, you go back to step 1. If you want to get to a braver you doing the things that you want to do but are a little too scared to do right now, it's just 4 steps. Find out if you really want to do it. Make a little map that spells out what you're confident about and what you're scared of. Start acquiring the skills that gets you to that next step in between those 2 points. And when you're comfortable, start again from number 1. I hope you found this useful. If you did, please like and subscribe. You can find me off of YouTube on my website and Instagram. And see you next time doing whatever it is I happen to be doing.